The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
All right, joining me in the Kiwi studio now, about to release a brand new album, a second solo project. Liam Finn, live in the Kiwi studio. Liam.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to have you here back in the Kiwi studio. It's been a wee while.
Yeah.
And hard to nail you down to one place because you're always travelling all over the world, touring with your band and whatnot.
Yeah, this one's pretty brief, 2-day visit to Auckland, but no, it's always, obviously it's nice to come home, and it's especially nice to come home when your record's just coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do know that you have spent some time in New Zealand summer, because I've seen the tourism video, very nicely shot tourism video for the Pure campaign.
That was something that I didn't really know how I felt about at first, but then I realised if I'm advertising New Zealand, it's a good place to come and bring some economy down here and stuff.
It is one of those. It is one of those things, that like, say, you know, I mean, it must happen to you all the time. People will come up to you, or you'll be in a conversation, tell us about New Zealand, and you can say so much. You don't think initially you would have much to say, but because it's intrinsically you, it's inside you that you. Yeah,
all you have to do is describe, Piha, and people are enthralled.
Yeah.
So we are very lucky to have that kind of. We've got so much mystique in the rest of the world as well. You say you're from New Zealand, and people, what they know about it is obviously either Flight of the Conchords or Lord of the Rings, and that paints quite a funny picture, I think, in a good way.
I got that. I was in Tokyo the other week, and went to a little whiskey bar, very cool whiskey bar. And it was themed around soundtracks, the music, and you could go through and select through the book, and I was selecting music. But then he found out where I was, the guy who owned the bar, so he put on Lord of the Rings soundtrack. I'd never heard the Lord of the Rings soundtrack.
Is it Enya or something?
Yeah,
I think
something like that. I was like, but no. Let's move on from that. Yeah.
Like the Scarfies soundtrack or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I should ship that over to him. Let's talk about the new album, recorded here in New Zealand.
Yeah.
At Roundhead, was it?
Yeah, I made it last year. Basically, I took a year out from all the touring, which had sort of taken me around the world, lots of times. I'll just say over about 3 years or something. I sort of wanted to come back and live at the beach again, and sort of recharge the batteries and write out there, and sort of start from complete scratch to sort of, I don't know, emulate a first record again. I think that's important to me, to try and always find a way to make it feel like a first record.
Yeah.
So, I sort of went out to the beach and thought isolation and the beauty of nature would inspire me and stuff like that. And to be honest, just kind of had a bit of a freak out.
Really?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I'd grown so used to the travelling and the stimulation of constantly meeting people and moving around and playing every night and having the adrenaline rush of performing and stuff that it was a total shock to the system, and I had to kind of I think I had to go through that, though, to then find some inspiration to write about.
Yeah.
You can't just write about how sweet everything is.
Well, that's right. And I sometimes wonder that, because you hear about musicians going off and being recluses for a wee while in order to write an album and find the inspiration. But then I think, well, then what are you going to write about? You're going to write about the birds and the trees that are outside the window. It's all very nice. Or will you write about the trials and tribulations of touring and whatnot?
Yeah, I think it's a good place to process it. I think that I had a lot of pretty crazy experiences over the last few years.
I imagine.
And within that, fleeting relationships and falling in love and all that sort of stuff. So there's lots to gather from. It's just that's somewhat an isolated place that can bring it out, I think. But I don't think it comes out easily. At least in my experience of it last year, was quite of it was a mountain to climb. It was really hard to sort of just to figure out what I was trying to create and figure out what my objective was.
I'm sensing a bruised and battered Liam Finn soul inside there somewhere.
I think it was possibly something that needed to happen to make an album. Like now I feel great, and now I'm really excited that it's coming out and stuff. But up until even finishing it, I was constantly double guessing myself and freaking out about things. But I kind of now, in hindsight, I see as that it's part of the process or something.
Did you need someone to stand over you? You're a loser. You'll be nothing. Your music's crap.
Yeah, I had that. I actually had that. No, I got a producer, and that was the first time I've worked with a producer properly. And I think because I was sort of confused, and I had such a clear idea on I'll Be Lightning, what I wanted to make. So this one was kind of because I didn't want it to be like I'll Be Lightning, and I wanted it to be where I was at now, and what I felt like now. I needed to sort of doing it all on my own wasn't that. So I brought in a guy called Burke Reed, who's Canadian / Australian dude, who used to be in a band called Girling. Not sure if you remember.
Oh, it came out on Flying Nun.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they're the only Australian band on Flying Nun. But he kind of came in and I sort of took a bit of a punt on him as a producer, really, because he's doing lots of Australian stuff, but he's quite new to it. But I just got the gut instinct for the first time, and that's what I used to rely on, was gut. And he was the first dude that sort of brought it back, and in some ways I think sharing the burden, I guess, for lack of a better word, of trying to make an album, it was so good to have a companion and someone to bounce off, and things started happening a lot faster, and it picked me up. And I think, as much like half was, kicking me into shape, but half of me was he was making me feel more confident and pushing me in directions that I might not have gone if I was on my own. So I think when you hear something back like that, something that's not necessarily all you, or something through someone else's ears, that inspires so much more art. So we got pumping.
Well, talking about being on your own, do you do a lot of the album yourself? A lot of the instruments, and record it all individually yourself, or do you get other musicians in as well?
Yeah, on this record it's pretty much all me on there, but I mean that wasn't actually, I didn't intend on that to begin with. I sort of thought I could involve some other people, but it became obvious really quickly that for us to get it done and for us to sort of nut out some of these songs, because Burke sort of gravitated towards some of the less formed songs, the more half-baked ideas and little melodies that I had and things like that, and which I'm really glad, because it took it to a new place and got me writing in a different way. But it also meant that I think I had to sort of do it on my own and work through it on my own, because it was harder to explain to someone else what I wanted to do. And
also you have to cut the blow 4 ways, right?
Yeah.
As well,
Yeah, exactly.
When you're in the recording studio,
I'm a selfish player.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, is there a big DIY ethic going on with this album as well? Using found instruments and stuff, because I get that feeling from you that you do enjoy picking up random bits and bobs and making sound out of them.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of sounds that are hard to make out what could have created it, and that's something that's always really interested me. In some ways, it's actually sonically it's kind of more experimental in the way that we recorded it in the last one, which was quite DIY, but was ultimately using old school analog gear, and I was just learning as I was going and I'll just put this mic in front of this amp, and and I was experimenting, but Burke was far more into the science of it and really trying out weird methods and chucking tubes on the ends of mics and doing really weird things, and so that was really fun. But musically, I think actually I kind of just rediscovered things I'd never really used before, like synthesizers and stuff like that. It's not like it's really obviously or heavily lathered in synth, but I definitely found sounds that I'd never created before, and that was really exciting. So,
does that make it a challenge then to translate that recorded music live, and also when you've got a band with you to say, hey, I did it this way, I did it, don't change, just do it this way?
Yeah, it is. I think it is hard to figure out how to do it live, but that's actually what I think I thrive on. That I like live being a completely different medium than a studio, and I think the key elements have to be in there. But to be honest, I really respond more to watching a band that look like they're in the moment and it could go anywhere. And I don't want to see someone replicate a record. So
I went and saw Cut Copy recently, and I was, I had great hopes. I want to see this band for a long, long time, and it was a good show, but essentially they just replicated the album.
And was there like backing tracks and stuff like that they were?
Well, there might have been some of that in there. I mean, they were all jumping around. They were all very enthusiastic on stage, but I really wanted to hear something like what LCD Sound System does, where they take their original and then they just flesh it out and go off all kinds of places.
He's LCD. I think that they were really good at treading that fine line of mixing electronic elements with live elements, and that's something that I think that I really respect about them, and that's something that is really exciting to me, is the idea that the people that you've got in the band have a personality, and they're going to inject that into every show as well. And I want it to be something that's different every night, because if you're going to go on tour for a couple of years, you want to keep enjoying it, and going through the motions certainly isn't that fun. And
who do you take on tour these days?
I've got my brother Elroy on drums with me, and I've got Joel Mulholland, also known as Mulholland.
Yep.
On bass, and I think EJ, who's sung with me lots in the past, is joining the band in about a month. But at the moment, we're just like a power trio.
Yeah. And these sound like guys that don't necessarily have to stick to that one instrument either. They could be anywhere.
It's true. Yeah, we could pretty gnarly setup. I got double drums. Like, I've got my drum kit on the stage because I'm not giving that up, because I love playing drums. So quite often we end up just on like 2 drum kits flailing and a really full-on fuzz bass.
That's really something to watch as an audience as well, to see 2 drummers. It's
visually pretty cool. And I love playing along with my brother, because it's just sort of, I don't have to worry too much about staying in time with him because there's some sort of, I don't know, blood thing happening there. And but he's quite a different drummer from me. He's far more disciplined and far more technical in a tasteful way, and I'm just sort of impulsive and animalistic. So it actually works quite well to sort of play off each other and do counter rhythms, and it's great fun.
The album coming out is called Fomo.
Yes.
Is that a play on words? What is that? Fomo.
I appreciate that it's a provocative title, but it's actually just an acronym for fear of missing out, which is a kind of headspace that I believe that we're all delving into in this modern age. Yeah,
and it's coming out in New Zealand on June 13, and then around the world: Australia, UK, Europe, and US, Canada. Of course, you're backing that up with a bit of a tour. In fact, you're off to Europe.
Yeah, I leave tomorrow to Berlin. It's a very, very fleeting visit. And then I make my way west and do a bit of Europe and then do a bit of the States and then go back to the UK and then come to Australia for Splendour and then come to New Zealand for the tour and then go back to Australia and then go back to America and then go back to the UK and Europe.
Do you try to get to bed early straight after a gig? In order to do the travel the next day to get to the next venue?
I'd like to, but to be honest, I think that buzz of playing keeps me awake for, I find it hard to wind down after a show and you want to kind of like also enjoy that buzz, It's like you don't go to bed after taking acid.
This is true. You'll be back in Auckland at the King's Arms on the 3rd of August, and then you're playing 2 nights there on the 4th as well, and then making your way around the country: Wellington, Nelson, North Dunedin, and Christchurch at the Arts Festival. Hopefully things will be okay there in Christchurch, and then off to Australia. To Melbourne as well.
Yeah.
All over the show.
Yeah, no, I can't wait to come back though. New Zealand's, homecoming shows are always pretty special for me.
Yeah, we'll be starting to think about spring at that time, I think.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Starting to warm up. Liam Finn, thanks so much for chatting about the new album. Go and check out the video as well when that starts making the rounds. It's up in the Herald at the moment and sure to make its way around the net soon. FOMO out on June 13. Liam Finn has been my guest. Cheers, Liam.
Thank you.